we appreciate your spending the time with us, because we would be remiss if we did not inquire, at least at some level, about the impacts of using technology in university teaching on students. And so we have put together a panel of 5 students. Yes, 5. Had to double check because the numbers changed overnight. 5 students who were willing to give of their time to answer some questions about the use of technology for teaching and learning on campus from the receiver's perspective, and how this might help to inform how we go forward as a university. First, before I introduce the panel, I want to also thank 3 important people from the Provost's office who have been manning the store throughout the day, who helped to coordinate and make all the detailed plans for putting on this wonderful conference. And first and foremost is Joe Schmidt, who is Administrative Assistant to the Provost. Joe? She's our official warrior. She worries about everything, and that's what you need in order to carry off a big undertaking like this. So thank you very much, Joe. And also Robin Wissand, who is an administrative assistant. Robin, thank you. And Miss Tammy Adams, thank you very much, Tammy. And I'm going to announce that as the new Office of Academic Innovation will take its new home probably later this semester, we will physically be located in the space where the CIOT lab is. Tammy Adams is going to be the administrative assistant for the new Office of Academic Innovation. So if you have questions or you want to meet, you got to know to meet Tammy, because she'll get you on my calendar. So we're very happy to have Tammy coming over with us. Also, at 3 o'clock, a select number of people were invited to participate in a focus group with Candace Till. It will take place at 3 o'clock directly across from here in room 307. And I think we still have a couple more spaces in the focus group. So if you're going to be here until 4 o'clock and you would like to participate, just see me after this panel and we'll see if we can get you in there. Thanks. So, as I said, we want to know what's on the minds of students. They are our clients, those who receive our education and who should be the ones who receive the greatest benefit from the changes that we might consider. So first, let's hear from each student who they are, what their major is, and their role at the campus.
I'm Tyler Workman. I am a music education major, and I'm a student, and that's about it.
Great, thanks, Tyler.
My name is Kelly Swigert. I'm in the Masters of Counseling Psychology program, and I'm also a graduate assistant for the Education Innovation Lab in the College of Education.
Thanks, Kelly.
I'm Julie Cutler. I'm also in the Masters of Counseling program, and I'm also a graduate assistant in the Education Innovation Lab in Hawkins Hall.
Thank you, Julie.
Hi, I'm Crystal Parker. I'm an early childhood education major and a psych minor, and I'm a student. That's it.
Thank you.
I'm Carla Baresi, and I'm a cell and molecular biology major.
Great. Okay, we have a scientist here. Thank you very much. All right, so first, I'd like to know what methods do you typically use for communicating with your professors, and are there others that you would recommend? Just starting with the basics about communication. Anyone like to jump in?
The first method I usually use is talking face to face. I mean, it's the easiest. If that's not possible, like I email using either my personal email or Blackboard, or call your office, make office hours, anything to talk to you.
Yeah, I would say what I use the most is email. It's usually a lot easier than figuring out office hours and trying to track people down.
And especially since email is also available on a lot of phones now, a lot of professors are getting back to you a lot more quickly than they would before. If they needed to be in their office on their computer, you can get emails from smartphones and tablets and everything like that. So communication can be a lot more effective that way. So I normally use email.
Anything else that you would recommend that might enable more communication, more effective communication? Okay, I mean, because we, the conversation sometimes is that, should we be using social media more and things like that? And we actually right now it's kind of a wide open because we don't have formal policies about using certain kinds of social media for instruction. Whether people, sometimes in the provost's office we get those questions. Is it okay for a department, let's say, to set up a Facebook account? And so, we just wondered, is that something that should not so much be in working with professors? Or it sounds like what you're saying, it works, but are there other things?
I personally think that having, I know classes and study groups have made Facebook pages, and that has sometimes been effective because you can restrict certain access and invite people to certain groups, and then and not everybody wants to be a part of your study group on Facebook anyway, so it's not like people are trying to jump on in there. So, and sometimes you can post like links or syllabi, and you can have stuff there all the time, because a lot of times people lose the syllabus or lose contact things, and so that's a way that you can be posting new information that people are going to be looking at on a regular basis. So it could be helpful for both faculty and students.
Yeah, I think in terms of pages and things like that, it certainly could be useful, but I don't feel that like one-on-one communication with faculty members is really something that I would use Facebook or any other social media site for. I just feel that that's sort of kind of a professional boundary that it would just feel strange to me to cross, to just be messaging a professor when I could just as easily send an email. Mm-hmm. So it's...
Yes, there's a question over here. Yes.
Quick question. How long do you think it should take for faculty members to respond? What's your expectation?
24 hours.
Yeah, I was going to say the same.
Yes.
24 to 48?
A lot of my professors tell me weekends I won't check my email, so don't email me then. Or if you really need me, you can email me anytime. One of my science teachers, she was actually just email me at 12. If you really need help, I will be up checking it. So usually, I don't know, maybe I like them to reply right then and there, but maybe my expectations are too high.
I actually think the max should be 2 days because, also as the student, you have to consider the teacher's personal life and other students in the class. So you shouldn't send an email the night before a test. You should send it at least 2 days because it also allows the teacher to prepare time to respond to the question. So
I think it also depends on the question.
Yeah.
If you're asking a really elaborate question about a paper that's due tomorrow, you can't be expecting an answer, and you should have thought of that
In
before
class.
the paper was due. But if you're asking a quick question about just double checking when an assignment is due, something that would be a quick response, I think it could also depend on the question about how fast the response would be.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. Yes.
I think one of the important lessons that we teach is how to speak truth to power. And I'm told that some students have trouble speaking to their professors. And in particular, some of my students have had trouble speaking to me. I only know this because they'll speak to my department chair and not to me. And I'm having trouble wrapping my mind around this. Now, you guys are so selected as a panel, and therefore presumably a little, is there a problem in general? Do you perceive a problem of professors being unapproachable?
I don't think professors, in my experience, I don't think they're unapproachable. I think it's maybe the student. Some students are shy. They don't like asking questions. well, face to face anyway. So I guess what you could do, some teachers I've had in the past, they have us write questions that your name won't be on it. Just write it and she'll say the question, she won't say a name and she'll just answer it. So your questions will get answered and nobody even has to know it's from you. So that could be a way you could, I don't know, get through to a student.
I have a mother's points.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Don.
It sounds like you have a potential as a future faculty member when you say that the student should anticipate this a couple days ahead of time. But as kind of a follow-on to that, when you are talking about faculty, what ticks you off about us in terms of our lack of awareness or lack of ability to use technology, or you think, boy, we wish these old people would come into the 21st century and know how to use technology and really be with us so we can be better connected?
I think I don't have crazy high expectations, but I do really appreciate the use of Blackboard, especially for grades. I'm the kind of student that likes to keep track of it to the decimal point, not to nitpick things, but just because I like to know where I'm at. So it's a lot easier if it's all in one little place on Blackboard. And I find that most professors do utilize that, but we've had some that haven't, I suppose.
Yeah. Using Blackboard for grading is one of the key things, and especially if, it can be used for feedback. You can attach documents with track changes, and that way it's all housed on there, so that way you're not getting a paper copy back, you're not using a lot of paper, and it's all there if you need to reference it at all. And sometimes you'll do an assignment and then you don't ever get the grade back for it, or you're confused about it, so it's good if it's all housed on Blackboard. But she's right, sometimes professors don't use grading, and that's one of the things that some professors don't use that I think would be really beneficial for students.
Are there any other parts, sections of Blackboard or aspects of Blackboard that you find useful or you would like to see used more frequently, in addition to the grade?
I had just taken an online class where I got to use everything in Blackboard effectively, and the discussion boards are really nice to use to communicate with other students, when you're not in the class and if you don't have another way to contact them. But it's not, because Blackboard's not pushed very much, especially in most of my classes in the music department. So sometimes I don't have a way to communicate to other students. So if there's some way where if teachers knew about that so they could actually use it so they can communicate to students and help other students communicate with other students.
I think the wiki page in Blackboard could also be useful as a really big collaboration tool amongst students depending on the class. And I think a big concern amongst faculty sometimes is that there's going to have to be one guinea pig class. You're going to have to test it out, and it's not going to work perfectly every time. But once you get the hang of it, it could be really useful for your future classes. You just have to be comfortable enough to take that first step and try it out and expect maybe it to fail or expect maybe a problem to come up.
And I think the funny thing with that is a lot of the wiki spaces, for example, on Blackboard are so underutilized that it's probably going to be the students' first time that they've used it as well. So they're going to be learning it along with you. And even if they've had it before, it's not like you guys are going to be so behind that they'll make fun of you when you're not there. I mean,
Maybe a little.
maybe a little. But it's something that I think students and faculty will kind of be learning as they go together. So.
Interesting approach, right? Learning together, yes. Yeah, but it shifts the paradigm. The traditional paradigm that the teacher is the wizard, the one who knows it all, who should be imparting knowledge, rather than people kind of creating knowledge together as they learn together. So, in addition to Blackboard, while taking courses, what has been the most creative use of technology that you have experienced? And to what extent did this help you learn the material better? Blackboard or any other kind of technology when you think about the classrooms as well?
Actually last spring, or actually last fall, my mistake, I was enrolled in Physics 211, and we used the integration of the clickers to answer questions instead of raising our hand. And basically the clickers raised awareness in like my physics classes. My class was like really big, it had 150 students. So it just really helped everyone kind of visualize and process physics, because physics is more hands-on, it's not just, going home and reading a textbook. So the innovation of utilizing the clickers to answer the questions, it really allowed students to pay attention and not get distracted by other students. And we were also able to ask our teacher like other questions following up on the clickers. And it just really was also used for our teacher to keep track of participation, so that our teacher was able to monitor who was attending class and who wasn't.
The clickers can also be made so that all the students are anonymous. So if you're asking the whole class a question and a lot of people are feeling clueless, they're not going to feel like I have to tell the entire class that I'm clueless. The clickers can create like a graph of who understands it and who doesn't without singling anybody out, which I think is helpful for both the students who don't want to tell the class that they don't understand it, but also for the faculty members themselves who can say, okay, it looks like half the class isn't getting this concept. I'll go back and look at this more.
I wish I had a clicker, but I don't know what a clicker is. And that way I wouldn't have had to identify myself as the person.
The clickers can be used with the smart boards and the Promethean boards, so they look like kind of like a little cell phone, and you can ask questions, and the students can then answer on the clickers. And on the smart board, then it can give you a pie chart or a graph of the different responses.
And you can type in like numbers, it can be true, false, it can be yes, no, multiple choice, it can be text, and you can create questions beforehand, or you can also just check knowledge during the class by, if people are looking like they're asleep, then you can ask a question like a yes or no or a true, false, and they can just click in and you can just sort of wake everybody up, or, make sure everybody's understanding what's happening during the class. And you can also track progress. So if you could do like quizzes or like, end of the class quizzes or beginning of the class quizzes, and track progress over time through with each student.
Is that free or do we have to pay some?
You actually have to pay, you can either pay per semester, or there's like a combined fee that you can pay that'll cover like at least 2 semesters. But when you register your clicker, you registered online, and the fee's like $7 per semester. So.
Just FYI, there are some universities and colleges that now require freshmen to purchase their clicker, and it will be used over the span of their 4 years at the college. It's just it's assumed that you're going to need this just as you might need your laptop in order to be successful at that college. Anything else about other courses that really impressed you because of the innovative use of technology?
I had a science class where we used the Apple. We used it for actually pretty much everything. Simulations during class that would wake us up, because instead of listening to her talk for 3 hours, because it's Monday and Wednesday from 8 to 10:45, it's a long class, so she has us do our own experiments. And the computer is pretty much doing everything, so we're just there clicking and we're watching it, we're watching the graphs and molecules and all these like particles. And then for our final project, she had us make a movie actually. We had to make a movie about our subject, which means going to a library, to the, I guess the resource center, and getting a camcorder, recording, going to get it, have somebody help us edit it on a MacBook, like Final Cut Pro. So she had us do all of this and then present it to a class, and then it was pretty interesting. I never expected that from a science class. It just blew my mind, so it helped us a lot.
I also did something similar, but I just used iMovie on the Mac. And for one of the classes we had to do like a little 5-minute movie, and you can just sit in front of your computer and then you can make a movie, and you can edit it, you can fade in, you can add text. It's really pretty advanced what you can do, and it seems kind of daunting at first, but it's pretty simple. Macs and a lot of other programs make it pretty easy to do, and then you can post that video to YouTube and create links so other people can look at it. So that was something similar that we did in a class that was really useful on multiple levels.
In one of my music theory 4 class, which is the last you take in the series, my professor used a program which slows down the song and it keeps it at the same pitch level, so you can like analyze it harmonically and it won't alter from the key you started in. And we use that during class when we would analyze large scale forms like sonata and rondo, stuff like that, because a lot of things are dependent upon like which key areas you go to, and you have to be able to know that and be able to do it by ear and by looking. So that was really cool to be able to know that there's software like that you can use and to do that.
Yes, question.
Some of this could sound overwhelming. Oh my gosh, I would never know how to use that. But as you were saying about learning together, one course at a time, one lesson at a time, as well as we do a presentation at the end, and I don't tell students what medium to use. And so by backing off, I don't get, I don't get all PowerPoints. One young man who's on the panel presented a movie to do his presentation where other students may have just read a speech or had a vanilla PowerPoint. So I think giving them that opportunity.
Right. Yes, thank you. And another question over here to your left.
One of the things that we were talking about in a TSEM section yesterday and earlier today was feedback on writing, where a professor actually records an audio file with comments, like a couple minutes of comments for students writing, instead of the traditional like written comments, and it saves a lot of time for grading. But I'm wondering, from your perspective, if you received an audio file that you listened to with feedback, would that be something that you could digest, or do you really need the written comments? You know, and this, not to say that nothing would be written within the text of the paper, but if you were to receive an audio file on Blackboard that said, you know, this is your feedback, would that be helpful?
I think that would be very helpful. Sometimes when you're like reading your papers that you get back, the comments can kind of be ambiguous, and you don't really know what to make of the comments. And so to actually hear your professor talking to you and telling you like specifically, and because when you like are listening to someone talk, you can kind of pick up more on the nuances of what they mean than if they just are like awkward or neat, you know. So I think that would actually be very useful.
I think it all depends on the student's type of learning and approach. It all depends, like for myself, I'm more of a student where I have to actually go to the class and actually listen to the teacher and take notes, when there's other students who can just listen to the teacher without taking a note and still process the information the same. So I think it all depends on the student's ability to adapt to learning and growing and understanding what the teacher's trying to say.
All right. Well, then let's talk about fully online courses. We do have a number of them on campus. We even have some degree programs that are fully online. And this is kind of the frontier that faculty and administrators and whole states are dealing with these issues about fully online or not, or to what extent. So could you tell me then, if you've taken a fully online course at Towson, and by that I mean less than 10% face-to-face, so nearly completely online, and what are the features that you prefer to use and why? What's your experience?
Well, I had taken secondary education completely online, and like I talked about earlier, the discussion boards are nice, and our teacher basically each week it was a unit, and she would post questions that we would have to answer regarding the text that we would have to read and the videos we would have to watch, and we would have to post on the discussion board, and then we'd have to go and actually read other people's posts. So we're kind of synthesizing what other people think and taking other people's sides on the information, because in an education class, like people can have different like opinions. It's not like cut and dry, and so that was nice to have. Also, it's always nice to be able to submit papers online. So we sent all of our papers online, and our final exam was online. So you just take all the multiple choice questions, and then you had to type up an essay and submit the essay. There's also another feature that wasn't used, but I thought was cool. If they can find like videos to show on like wherever YouTube, and you can actually like, as a class, you can comment on videos as they're playing. So when people go to watch a video that you've already watched, they can see your comment that you've left. We never used that, but she had showed us it as a tool that we could use. Is anybody else on the phone? Am I the only one?
Has anyone else taken a fully online course?
I have actually. I've taken Biology 204, which is it's a career planning class for biology majors that's required. And basically, it was a summer class that I took, and it was more of an independent class. Like our teachers would have us do the research. So it all depends. I mean, I didn't know anybody in the class, and I really didn't build a bond, but it was more for self-enhancement. So it all depends on the type of class that you take and what you're going to get out of it.
Right, so, well, and the rest of you have not taken a fully online course. So let's think critically then. What would be the advantages and disadvantages of online? Tyler jumps right in.
For online, one of the biggest disadvantages I found when taking the course was as the units were submitted and we'd have to turn stuff in at a certain time, right before midnight, I would forget when something would have to be turned in, and so I would always have to go on to check when it was turned on, supposed to be turned in, and I think one time I missed turning it in, but I still sent it. So it's hard to keep track of that unless you put it into your calendar, and when you have a class that's regular, you have your professors which tell you, and I usually, I remember to do it that way. That's one of the biggest problems.
And any other sort of critique of online learning? Good, bad, pros, cons.
I actually liked my experience with my online science class because it was during the summer, so I didn't have to physically be in the classroom to learn. And it all just depends on the student. Actually, in the spring, I'm enrolled in an online class for the reason being for time management. The class in the classroom didn't fit into my schedule, so now I'm going to have more time, to do the work on my own time rather than having to worry about when I'm going to do it, fitting in my schedule. So it all depends on the type of student that you are. I mean, the disadvantage is that you have to know when, you're completing your online assignments, that you can't be on social networking. You have to fully focus. So I guess if you're able to distinguish between social networking and, completing your schoolwork, then it's all right. It's acceptable. But that's the biggest challenge, is not being on social networking while doing the work.
Okay, I think we have a question.
Yeah, Tyler has a very good point about online courses and turning in assignments on time. And what I've developed over the year, and I found is very effective, is two things. One is I make sure that all of the assignments are due on the same weekday.
Yeah.
So it's very consistent. It's due every Thursday each week. There's always something due. So that reminds them. And then always I send out a reminder, either the day before or the day of. Reminder by email. So there's always that nudge. And I found between those two, then I've avoided the issue that Tyler was talking about. And I had that problem before with some of my former courses.
Yeah, consistency seems to be really a requirement for the success of it. And there was another question.
For the three of you who haven't taken an online course, is it because you chose not to, or because they weren't offered?
I haven't taken an online course here, but I've taken an online course other places. But our program isn't really well suited for online courses. But I would think a problem would be, for when she was talking about different types of learners, if you only have text to read online, it's not the same as hearing it. But I know some online courses I've taken elsewhere, teachers have recorded their lectures and videos, or there's listening and audio, so that sometimes helps. Or you can follow, so that way you have two modes where you're seeing someone talk about it, or you're hearing them and you're also reading. Because a big problem for me would be just tried to focus on all the reading that you would need to do for an online course, as opposed to having someone there maybe explaining it to you or giving examples.
I've chosen not to take them. I've taken hybrid classes, but generally, and call me old-fashioned, online classes just really don't seem the same to me. And I guess I just value the classroom interaction. Although I will say that in the hybrid courses I have taken, one of the advantages I think is that you hear a lot more from all the students. There's our program, it's generally the same 15 of us that go through all the courses, and I learned the most about and from most of the other students in the hybrid class, because everybody has to contribute. You can't sit in a class and have the same 5 people raise their hands because it's all online and you need to submit something, and then you have to go and read, and like Tyler was saying, a lot of them are discussion board based, so you have to read other students' work and then comment on it. So I think that's definitely an advantage. But
Yeah, in informal polling of my 3 classes of freshmen, the hybrid seems to be the model that they prefer. Quotes from them being that they didn't come to college to take all online courses. They want to actually be old-fashioned in the classroom. So.
I think that's a very important comment, that students didn't come here just to take online courses. That's part of our discussion as faculty, about our identity and the fact that we have a presence. And some of us also have a presence in cyberspace with these online courses. But students come here because they want a certain kind of experience.
Can you talk a little bit about readings that are available only online as opposed to printed? Because sometimes I thought it would save students money if they had access to like a PDF versus buying the textbook or the online version of the book, and they always say, well, frequently say that they don't like reading things online. So it sort of defeats the purpose. Or if professors ask you to print something, some students say, well, I just want to go online, and others will say, if it's online, I won't be able to follow along as well. And so there's just that whole online versus print assignments, and whether you feel like you should print it out and stuff like that.
I've always all my books are I always buy them, but last semester I decided to try to buy a Kindle. So I bought the book from Amazon, and it was available on my Kindle and my Mac. So it was pretty easy to follow, because while the teacher was teaching, I could actually be seeing all the stuff like I commented on. And sometimes it's like, instead of flipping, like I'm over there flipping through my pages, oh, where's this one on while my Mac is just right there, page this, it's on this, show my comments, show my highlights on. So I don't know, it was pretty easier for me.
I think it depends on price too. Like if you have if it's an online course only and it's only the book, that would be a con, because then you don't have the interaction that Kelly was talking about earlier. But if I could get it cheaper online, I will, or if it's only online and not in print, because a lot of books are now moving over to Kindle or Amazon and stuff like that, so it's cheaper, and that's, I think, a huge thing for students, because books can be so expensive, and if they're required and you feel like you need them, sometimes I'm like, I can't afford this book. Like, does that mean I'm not going to do well in the class? So if it's available online, or if sometimes teachers will be like, I don't want you to have to pay $200 for this book, so I'm just going to upload a bunch of PDFs onto Blackboard, and then you use those, so it can work both ways.
I think being given the option is really great, especially when, personally for me, if I'm given something online, I print it off anyway. Call me old-fashioned. But I know. But as a graduate student, if I have to pick between buying a $150 book and eating, I'm gonna eat. So I really like it when I know a lot of professors kind of forego the book thing and go with several different PDFs or chapters online. In fact, one I can think of had way more than one. She had, I think, 4 or 5 books she wanted to use, and she wasn't going to require us to buy them all, so she took chapters that she liked from each and photocopied them. And while, yes, I ended up printing out 1 trillion pages, I still felt that that was way cheaper and more realistic than buying 5 different books. So.
Yeah, there's a whole copyright thing that we know needs to be addressed. Yes.
I was just going to ask Rick Davis to talk about the copyright issues involved with uploading a bunch of PDFs and or chapters of a book, but
right, we only have 5 more minutes for the panel, so
I'll add that Rick is going to be doing a workshop through CI and OAI this spring, so please join us.
Yes, we do have a venue for that and an expert, so please stay tuned for that announcement. So we only have about 5 minutes left, so is there anything else that you wanted to share with us? Any other recommendations on how we can integrate technology so it makes learning better for students?
I think just increasing the use of PowerPoints. But kind of like, actually I took a medical microbiome last semester. It was really the first time where a teacher didn't put all the information on the slide. She put slightly small bullet points, so that it kind of motivated us to go to class more, because in order for us to get the notes that she wanted us to have, we had to verbally listen to her, as opposed to teachers I've had who just completely wrote paragraphs of information on a slide. So I think it's more effective when teachers incorporate the usage of PowerPoints, but they don't put every word that they're saying out of their mouth on the slide. It allows the student to develop skills on note taking, and for us to visually and mentally process the information better.
Any final recommendations? This is your chance.
I'm gonna go in along with the PowerPoints, also using another venue called Prezi.com. I prefer that over using PowerPoints. First, it's free, so you don't have to buy it. Second, you can submit and share them online, which is really nice. And also, if I can go anywhere and I have it to present, I don't have to carry it in a flash drive or anything. It's already on Prezi.com, and you just go there. It's also different than just slide to slide. It's just a big map, and it moves along the map. So it makes it's more interesting for a student to watch, which sounds like a kind of a silly thing, but when you're sitting there in a lecture, it's really boring to watch the same thing sit there and then move, slide, but to see things zooming over, and it automatically loads YouTube videos. So if you use YouTube videos, and when they go to the next slide is a YouTube video, it's already loaded and it'll start playing instantly. You don't have to go to the website. You don't even have to pull up YouTube. It's already there, it's ready to go. So I prefer Prezi over PowerPoint.
And I would just say Blackboard, especially the grading, like I said before, it's really helpful. And I know in our positions as graduate assistants, we work a lot with Blackboard more on the faculty end, so I definitely understand that it's not always as user-friendly as maybe we would like it to be, but there are so many resources on campus and people like Julie and I actually that can help you set it up and help you get started, and I think a lot of students would appreciate that, definitely, the grading portion at least.
I think that trying the new technologies as well is important. Bonnie mentioned earlier that it can seem kind of daunting, you know, everyone's talking about different things and everything's always changing and everything's always new. But if you just take everything one step at a time, and if you're like learning one new piece of the puzzle for each new technology, then it's not going to seem as bad. And you know, if ever a teacher uses something like Prezi or adds a video or does something different in class, it really does sort of strike an interest in the students than just sitting in a lecture listening to the teacher talk about it. It makes you feel more involved if something sort of different happens sometimes.
All right. Well, this was very enlightening, the final word to today's conference, and we thank you for your time and for your input and your voice. And we hope to have more conversations of this nature throughout the year. We have a token of our appreciation. LaTanya Dyer has a gift for each of the students.